This is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher Magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And sponsored this week by IQ Audience Plus by Town News. Consumer revenue has never been more important. Digital leaders at media organizations worldwide are asking the same question. How do we accelerate the growth of consumer revenue? Traditional one-size-fits-all paywalls aren't the answer. They're blunt instruments that treat all visitors the same way, costing you money. IQ Audience Plus by Town News is a smart, dynamic metering solution that empowers you to maximize revenue by identifying key audiences, seeding engagement, and growing membership and subscriptions. Ready to supercharge your consumer revenue, grow engagement, and bolster your advertising income? Visit townnews.com/EP today to learn more about IQ Audience Plus. And greetings once again. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P. If these E&P report segments have value to you, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast channel you're listening to, our podcast channel you're listening to. If you're on YouTube, swing down to the bottom of the screen, hit that little subscribe button and the bell next to it. You'll get alerted each time we upload a new segment of E&P Reports. Remnant inventory. Yes, I remember the good old days when we used to do it in what it was called the Yahoo Consortium, and then Google Display. And now, of course, the programmatic world gives us some value to that as we pitch it across the internet. And of course, we have remnant inventory in our legacy products, broadcast, pages in magazines, newspapers, and what have you. What do you do with it? Some of us trade, right? I mean, you might get a local restaurant to give you meals that you can give away or use for yourself. How about investing in startups? Consumer-facing startups. Well, you can invest that inventory in a fund right now. It's called Arrandale Ventures, and the founders are people from the news publishing industry. Names you likely know, Jeremy Mims. We know him well. He has been very involved in helping us build online communities, and of course, the expansion of voice. And Zach Richner, part of the Richner family, started by his grandfather, the community newspapers out on Long Island. Together, they came up with this idea where they're finding startup companies of high value that need your inventory in order to increase their value. And you end up with the investment not only in the companies that advertise with you, but all the companies that are working with Arrandale Ventures. It's a fascinating idea. It's worth 30 minutes of your time, I promise you. So stick around as I chat about startups and inventory and how you can meld them together with two industry leaders, Jeremy Mims and Zach Richner. Well, I've got an old friend with me today. I've got Jeremy Mims. Jeremy, you and I go way back. We've spoken at conferences, crossed paths all over the world. Where do I have you today, sir? Where are you?
I am in Brooklyn today.
You are in Brooklyn, New York. Good to have you here.
Yeah.
A new friend, Zachary Richner. I know your dad very well, Zach. The Richner Group out in Long Island. You are one of our 25 under 35 at E&P. We saluted you, sir. Did we not?
Yes, thank you so much. Quite the honor. So thank you to you and your team, and really grateful to be recognized alongside all of those other great folks in the industry.
So you have all these accolades now. You're New York based. Am I correct, Zach?
That's correct.
So do you get to, now that you're a 25 under 35 with E&P, do you get to slip by the rope lines at all the hot clubs now? Are you a big star?
I do. Yes, thank you so much. It's great. Got my vaccines and ready to party this summer.
Well, gentlemen, both of you really have a lot of investment going on over the years. Well, you're a little bit younger, Zach, in the news publishing industry, but we're here to talk about a new venture that both of you have partnered up on that I find fascinating. It's called Arrandale Ventures. Who wants to give us the one paragraph LinkedIn overview of what Arrandale Ventures are? Jeremy, do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. So Arrandale is a way for media companies and startups to work together. So basically what we do is we invest marketing into startups, and media companies have lots and lots of marketing. Startups need lots and lots of marketing. And so that's what we've been working on. We've put together quite a group of media companies, and we're assembling kind of an army of startups, and we are advertising and marketing those startups across the country. And we've got about $1 billion in marketing committed from our media partners, and our startups are coming on board now, and it's really cool to see it all start working.
I remember, Zach, when you sat down with me at the last convention, it was the second to last convention I attended, which was the 2020 Mega, right before COVID hit.
In Fort Worth,
in Fort Worth, Texas. And you kind of gave me a quick overview of what this was all about. That was a little bit over a year ago, and you were just kicking this thing off. What got you involved, Zach? Why did you decide that I'd rather help? I mean, I know you're working, obviously you're working for your family's company, but why did you decide you wanted to help startups find media and become the go-between?
Yeah, having grown up in the family business that my grandparents started, newspapers were and always have been very important to me. It's a company that my father runs today. It's called Richner Communications. And I saw a lot of opportunity. And I really thought that if we could innovate the business model, we could take a large portion of the $60 billion that's going to these consumer-facing venture-backed startups each year. So I saw a lot of opportunity for publishers to make a lot of money, to really support a burgeoning startup scene. And these are not media related startups. They're consumer facing. So we're not necessarily investing in technology that will help the day-to-day operations of our publishing partners. We are investing in food companies, in healthcare companies, in fintech companies, and happy to talk a bit more about some of those specifics. But what got me interested was I wanted to figure out a way, just like Jeremy, how we could support this industry that was so incredibly important for individual communities, and not to be cliche, but really for our democracy as a whole. So that's why I got involved.
All right. So basically, let me see if I can put this together. When I was in radio, way back in the old days, I remember in the 90s, we had we traded a lot on radio.
Yeah.
They called it Contra up in Canada, because I was running a radio group in New England, up in Portland, Maine. I traded rooms at the Chateau Frontenac, the big hotel in Quebec City. And I actually traded most of my first wedding, except for the preacher. I had the cake, the honeymoon, the venue. It was massive, because, when you have extra inventory, what do you do with it? When I ran TV stations, we used to get these, Friday afternoons, we used to get these phone calls from PI, per inquiry companies. Take the weekend extra inventory and run these 800 number spots. We'll give you a kickback if we get a call. You're saying to media companies, all right, if you've got inventory, this is not just newspapers, this is broadcast online. We've got consumer-facing startups that want that inventory to help promote themselves, and we will give you equity in those startups. Jeremy, do I have this right? It's nothing more than a trade, correct? That's it.
Yeah, it's a trade. It's a barter. It happens to be a very advantageous trade for everybody. Probably in the same way your extra hotel rooms at the Chateau were. If nobody's going to use them, right, well, you might as well turn it into something valuable. And that's basically what this is in a very short form. Zach and I were talking the other day about this. Is instead of trading for steaks at your local restaurant, we're trading for steaks in high growth, high value startups. And
that's a very good, I like the way you said that. Very cool. Steaks. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. I do remember that back in the 90s when I did it, it was like just trade away. But then the IRS got down on us and said all trade had to be considered income, and we were taxed on it. And that changed the whole model. What are the tax implications of this to a media company, either of you, if they decide to give inventory to a consumer-facing startup? Is it income or is it tax deferred? How does that work?
That is a great question.
It's a great question, and it's something that we spent a lot of time working through because, of course, we don't want phantom income for our publishers. So we have actually chosen to take the equity in the form of stock options or stock warrants. Right. So therefore, it does not count as income until those options or warrants get exercised. And we have a 10-year window to exercise those options or warrants. So that is the way that we are mitigating the tax liability for us and for our publishing partners. I will caveat that with saying you should always consult your own tax experts and lawyers, but that is the model that we're working on.
And that being said, we've consulted an awful lot of tax experts and lawyers to put this together.
Well, because I do have options on some digital startups that asked me to consult them over the years as they wanted to enter into the media industry. And again, I have my wife who handles our taxes always has to get that in there, but somehow we're not taxed on it unless we ever sell them or convert them. Now, here's the thing. One of the startups that got me involved and gave me options went out of business. It did not work. And I put a lot of hours into that company many years ago. The media company's rolling dice, right? They got to assume, I mean, I know it's remnant inventory, whether it's inches or impressions or time on a radio station or television station or what have you. You're giving them options in a company that may or may not make it. Do I have that right, Zach? I mean, is that pretty much the way it is?
So, it's definitely never a sure thing. What we do is we provide the equity to our publishers, not only in the startups that they actually promote, but also our entire portfolio. So we're spreading the risk among what we believe are going to be hundreds of startups that we invest in. And then also a lot of the reason that startups don't succeed is because they don't have the customer acquisition and marketing channels that they need. And we are coming in and we're providing those to them at very favorable economics. So we believe that we will mitigate, we're mitigating the downside risk on this investment. And also spreading the risk. And like you said, Mike, this is in some cases remnant inventory. In some cases, our publishers have really, leaned in hard and are creating opportunities for promoting some of our portfolio companies. But we really do see tremendous upside for this model and making a lot of money, not just for publishers, but also the startups that we're investing in.
There's one other thing here, Mike, that's pretty important, which is that we are not the only ones investing in these companies. So we're coming in with some of the best blue chip investors that you can think of. And we're doing our diligence on all of these companies, but they are as well. So our piece of this puzzle is really important, but making sure that they have enough money for their operations and to grow is important too. So this is not falling on just us and our publisher partners. These are really big venture capital firms that are invested in these companies and want to see them succeed too.
I didn't now I see. I thought you were pairing up a specific company with a specific company. You're not. You're like running a hedge fund. You're letting all of those options come into your place. You're running it more like a fund. And then the media company that invests with you through inventory is buying into your fund. Is that pretty much how this is all going down? And as you build and build and build and invest in the right startups, invest in you, or you're investing in them, I don't know which way you're going, the media company's investment in you rises. Right. In
many ways, that's correct. I mean, we certainly give a little bit more of the economics to publishers that invest in specific startups. So, you might, if a company that you're, not invest, promote specific startups. So if, Shaw Media is spending a lot of inventory or investing a lot of inventory in one of our portfolio companies called Minibar Delivery. It's an alcohol delivery company. They will see a little bit more economics from the outcome of Minibar Delivery. However, they are participating in the entire outcome of our portfolio.
Of Arrandale Ventures.
Yeah, so it is a fund. We are a venture capital fund.
Wow, this is fascinating. Okay, so you just made, I was about to say, give me an example of a media company that's working to help a startup. You just gave me two. Are those real? Did the Shaw brothers come in on this?
So we're working with Shaw Media.
Okay.
We're working with a lot of large independent media companies, the Ogden newspapers of the world,
Sure.
WIC Communications,
Wow.
Forum Communications, Rust. I mentioned Shaw. So we're really excited. We have about 4,000 local media outlets throughout the country right now, and pretty much reach every DMA in the United States. If you rolled up all of the websites of our media partners, we would be about the 5th or 6th largest website in the country.
Wow.
So we're really excited and really excited to be talking to you, Mike, and to ENP, because Jeremy and I have been building this network for the last year or so and really doing it under the radar. And we have now gotten to a point where we have started making our first investments, kind of ready to go public with some of what we're doing, and encouraging publishers that, maybe we haven't spoken to yet to get in touch. You can reach us at hello@Arrandale Ventures. That's ARRANDALE Ventures.com. And would love to just continue to expand the network of publishers so we can make some money for everybody.
Well, and I can understand how you guys could find publishers. Your family is respected, and a lot of these guys. Zach, Jeremy, just about everybody in the industry knows you through two major companies that you pretty much ran, or at least worked, you were the face of them to the media industry. You were on many stages. So I can see you picking up the phone and calling Francis Wick, and he'd take your call, Jeremy, and then you could explain the value proposition and you could cut the deal. How the heck are you finding the alcohol delivery company? I mean, is there some network that you go to? Do you have buddies that you say, give me a good startup? I mean, how do you interface with them and get these consumer-facing companies to want to use the media that you have accumulated, Jeremy? What's the way you're doing that?
Well, what's really interesting about this is the other side of the world that I've spent the last 15, 16 years in, which is working with venture capitalists, working with other startups, getting to know lots and lots of founders. And Zach's the same. There are any number of really smart people who are out there creating great companies right now. And when you combine our networks, it turns out we know a lot of them, or we can get to them. And this is a really compelling proposition too. Even companies that we don't know or haven't met before, when we talk to other venture firms, they have a key problem that they're trying to solve, which is they have companies that aren't growing as fast as they need them to.
Of course.
And what Arrandale helps solve is this core marketing proposition. So rather than merely just investing their money into a company that's then going to get turned around, and that check is basically going to be given to Facebook and Google, we can give them another way to access these audiences and build a little diversity into their model. So everybody seems very happy so far with these outcomes, but it's very important for us to continue building out our network and to find the best companies. The best companies are the ones that deliver the best returns, and we feel very obligated to do that for the industry, is to find the companies that are going to be worth billions of dollars, because that's going to help make this whole model work. And hopefully this is going to help fund journalism in the future.
the greedy side of me is now getting much more interested in this. And I mean, I can see why this is working. I'm, in my 60s. And when I was a younger pup, 25 years ago, when I jumped out of my job and became an entrepreneur, I started building my own company. I was sitting with my financial guy, and he kept saying to me the number was 8%, 8 to 10. In other words, as I put wealth away, I could guarantee without touching that capital an 8 to 10% return on my investment when I retired. Does that make sense? And then has a nest egg to give to my children. You guys are young. You most probably are now doing that or looking towards your future. The markets are screwy now. Number one, we don't know where the market's going. Number two, there is no safe investment. I mean, as far as you can't put your money in a money market now, you can't put it in a CD and you get 0%. Interest rates are so low that people like who own a media company would be interested in this. This is fascinating. So let's assume, Zachary, when you came to me a year ago, you were just starting up, you guys, and I invested heavily into you. I gave you a whole mess of inventory, let's say $100,000 worth or $500,000 worth. What is that worth today? Would I have done well, Zach? I mean, what's the numbers like?
Yeah, so you would have done well. It's still early, so results are forthcoming, but we have seen some of the companies we've invested in already get marked up based on additional rounds that have been raised, based on what some of their peers and competitors have been acquired for. I can't, Mike, give you a real number as far as, you would be up 30% or 40%, but if you look at our portfolio, we're talking multiples of what your original investment is based on.
Jeremy, how do you track this? If I am a media company and I invest in you and I say, okay, do I give you a number over a year that I'll give you? Do I make a pledge to you and say, this is what you'll get from me? And do you give me an accounting on that every month on how the company's doing? Is that how this works? And I get just like any kind of fund I would be in?
Yeah, so it's not quite a monthly piece, but essentially what you do is for any ads that you run that we agree on as part of this marketing plan, you bill us. And instead of expecting cash, we log it in our system as advertising. That this counts against the balance of marketing that we have set aside for these startups.
And I can do that at my open rate. You're not negotiating my lowest possible 12-month with lots of extra added value stuff. I mean,
so this is a really good point. So what we expect from the media companies that we work with is that they see this as an investment. We want them to create really compelling packages. This is not something to burn out the worst possible things. What you want to do is really create the premium experiences that are going to benefit these companies, because this is a benefit to you. This isn't just something that you've sold inexpensively. This is something that we want to have real value, and we want it to have long-term value for the startups. So the more startups we work with now who can take advantage of this program, the better the economics are going to look in the future as we get more companies in. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is there basically are negotiated rates that come through. So nobody's getting $50 CPMs or $75 CPMs. These are things that have to stand up to the other marketing that the startups could choose to invest. And within the network, there is a small piece of competition, not necessarily amongst partners in cities, but this mini bar company, they may only have a few $1 million to invest. When you spread that across the entire country over a couple of years, it's not that much per market. And so we hope our media partners see the value in making sure that they are going to invest their marketing resources in a particular media market. And so we hope that this is something that spirals upwards instead of spiraling downwards. Hopefully that makes sense.
Zach, can the media company buy regionally by one? I mean, excuse me, can the startup, I have to make sure I get the players right, buy a specific market, or is it only the entire network for sale?
They can be as specific and hyperlocal as they desire. That's part of the beauty of what we are doing. As you know, Mike, when you work with local media, you can get as local as zip codes, or in some cases, even carrier routes. Yeah. Right. An example of a company that we've worked with that I think is a really great example of that regional or hyper local buy is a company called Perennial. So it was founded by one of the founders of Beyond Meat. I'm sure everybody knows Beyond Meat, the meat alternative beef company. So one of the founders left Beyond Meat to start Perennial, which is a plant-based meal replacement beverage for seniors. So it's taking on the market that right now is dominated by Ensure and Boost. Lo and behold, those are really not healthy products. They're just full of sugar. So we were connected to Perennial, and Perennial had a pilot program going with a national brick and mortar retailer in the New England region. And we came in and supported that pilot, and we A/B tested the stores in which they were selling Perennial. So in some stores we put marketing behind, in other stores we didn't. And they saw such a tremendous lift in the stores that we were supporting, anywhere from 4x to 8x sales volume from the stores where we were not supporting. So at that point, Perennial was able to go to this national retailer and say, look at the resources that we have behind a national launch. We have X millions of dollars with this group called Arrandale Ventures to support us as we roll out throughout the country. And this retailer greenlit them for a national rollout in 6,000 stores. So that's an example of how what was originally regional looks like it now will be a national play for Arrandale Ventures and for this portfolio company, this startup that we have worked with.
I was invested in a steak sauce years ago, and when I was living in Maine. No, seriously. And I do understand what you're talking about. That gentleman was trying to get into a grocery store chain, and you got to show your marketing. You are begging for shelf space, and that shelf space is extremely hard to get. And you've got to get, and it's not just how much space you get by inches, but where it is on the shelf, because they may throw you on the bottom. So now I see a real benefit for, again, consumer companies to be able to say, I've got $1 million, $2 million, $3 million of ready to go marketing. So let me ask you this, Jeremy, who's doing the creative? How do you get, do I have to lay out my own ads?
The short answer is not either of us. So we work with, so many of the companies that we work with, they already have a marketing team.
Right.
So whatever they choose to do, they've already got messaging that's working for them in many cases, in which case we'll use that. But that being said, we're seeing a lot of companies that don't. And one of the things that we've kind of confronted in the last couple of months as we've gotten started is, could we get access to more companies earlier who we think are good, who have good investors, but marketing is not their core competency? And can we help bring in agencies who will help? And actually, we've been having those conversations. And some of those people, I won't say them because we haven't signed any deals yet, but you would know them. They're people who are in the industry, who have a lot of experience working with our media partners, and who would know the kinds of ads that would resonate with consumers in our media markets. And so we're putting them in touch. And we think this is a great thing. If we can figure out how to make this part of the Arrandale Ventures experience, we're going to get even more startups to come on board.
So basically, if I've got remnant inventory, let's assume it's digital, and I know exactly what I'm getting CPM across the programmatic world, and I have to weigh that against an investment in your company and saying, okay, you guys are smart. you're finding startups, the right ones in today's economy that are going to grow like this. I could move that inventory to you and see a better ROI down the road. That's your final value proposition to the media company, correct? That's what you're doing.
It is. And we're not actually saying either or. We're saying do both. So if you have cash paying clients today, do that. And if you have a portion of that inventory that you feel comfortable with, give it to us. And we'll try to turn it into something more than your guaranteed remnant CPM.
This is a fascinating idea. Zach, what were you going to say, sir?
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Jeremy mentioned and say that what we have started to see is actually this form of marketing, this model being a beachhead for cash paying customers to our publishers right away. Because this is a whole universe of startups that are really not thinking about what you and I would probably call traditional media or legacy media. I mean, in some ways, this is the new media for them because they grew up, the CMOs, their traditional media is Facebook and Google. That's what that is their bread and butter. So introducing them to print and to direct mail and broadcast and out of home, that's new to a lot of the startups that we're working with. So importantly, we're not cannibalizing cash paying customers for any of our media partners. But we are also really bringing to the table this whole new universe where once they hit their marketing cap and they see the ROI is there, that print is working, that radio is working, they're going to want to continue to spend and invest in that channel. And then they have to use cash. And likewise, their competitors and their peers see that, Perennial or Mini Bar is blanketing a certain geography. And guess what? Their competitors need to meet them where they are. And their competitors need to be advertising in those same channels. And their only option is to do that with cash. So we've actually already seen our model bring cash paying customers to some of our media partners.
Sure.
And we're really excited about that.
Of course, if you took a new product and demonstrated that more people will grab it off the shelf based on the media that was purchased, you just turned someone on to that media. You gave them an entree to whatever media that was. Jeremy, what about sponsored content? Excuse me, branded. I got to use the right term. I mean,
yeah, what we used to call advertorial, Mike.
Yeah, I know, the dark ages.
Right.
No, I think there was something called native ones, but never. Are you offering those opportunities as well? Can you get into those networks?
Yeah. So this is what's so fascinating about it, right? This is not just one thing. This is not just a print ad in the newspaper. This is not just display ads on a newspaper's website. This can be your email newsletters. This can be your podcasts. This can be your events, which hopefully everybody will start having again soon.
Right.
All of the things that you do that make you a valuable part of the community that you're in, you can now make available to these startups. And of course, things like branded content are part of it. And that's a big interest to a lot of the startups we talk to. But some of the companies are interested in sampling. They're interested in sending something out with a print product and having it show up at people's homes. So anything that you can imagine is possible. And even more than that, I think it stands to reason that we see this as a creative exercise too. I mean, if our companies or our portfolio companies spark any ideas that our media partners have about ways to market them better, we want to have that conversation, because this isn't just executing A and B and C. This is about figuring out what D and E are so that we can benefit the industry.
How big this is my final question. How big does the media company have to be in order to approach you guys, Zach, and ask to be part of your fund?
Yeah, so we're working with companies that are really any size, media partners that are any size. So everything from the newspaper that serves 10,000 residents and has one publication to I mentioned some of the bigger groups we're working with. So we are happy to have anybody that is interested in this model talk to us because it can really benefit media groups of any size.
Well, the two gentlemen we're chatting with today, Zach and Jeremy, definitely have ink in their veins. There's no question. They come from the industry, but they have now found a new channel for if you have a media property and this is your life's blood, to invest in a whole new way with looks like no tax liability. Again, asterisk, make sure you talk to your own tax lawyer, and invest in startups that look like they're going to grow. And the company is called Arrandale Ventures. I got to ask, what is Arrandale? What is that, Jeremy? Where'd that name come? Oh, you're laughing.
I can't answer this question. This is a Zach question.
Zach?
It's very personal for him.
So I grew up on it's pretty simple. I grew up on Arrandale Road in New York. So, everything's local here. So that's where it comes from, Arrandale Ventures.
ARRANDALE Ventures. ArrandaleVentures.com. I love the email, hello@ArrandaleVentures.com. If you have any interest on either side, I assume that's how they contact you gentlemen. I'm fascinated. I want to see how this thing grows. And I think I already told you, E&P will join your group where
Great.
B2B is just as valuable to you guys as well, right? A publication like mine.
Absolutely.
I love it. It sounds like something that I can't really lose that much except inventory. And if that inventory is there, why not at least invest it? I think it's great. Gentlemen, thank you for your valuable time. Stay healthy, stay well, and by all means, stay in touch with us and let us know how this grows and where it's going to be a year from now, okay?
Thank you so much, Mike.
And happy birthday. We're going to send you a case of Perennial.
Thank you for reminding me of my age.